See if we get a stream set up here. Just getting the live stream going. Hope you folks are doing well where you are. Just checking our audio, our connection speeds. Making sure we don't have too much of an echo. Looks like we got a little lag, so we're going to let that clear out for just a second. Got a very busy morning this morning. Lots of yesterday was pretty light. We just had Brennan here, so we basically handled that async. Today we're gonna have a pretty lengthy session as Abby's here, Maddie's here, Eddie's here, but it seems like everybody has multiple submissions today. Okay, Eddie's in 2 courses, Maddie's got a couple of things. Abby's got just a wall of stuff, so we're taking it all in. One of the interesting things with regard to going through one of these courses is oftentimes, if you, especially on a project where things are tied together, if you don't take a moment to really crystallize your thoughts about what you went through in that particular phase, it can lead to problems further downstream, and that's what we're looking at. We're gonna be looking at some of that today. Hello to all the new followers. I've seen a number of people. It's kind of funny because every year about this time, lists are made about places where you can get tips on design and things like that, and we've made it onto a few of those lists. So it's really indicative when I see the follower counts begin to spike up. It's like, oh, we must have gotten on another list somewhere. So greetings, welcome to all of you. If you're here for the first time, it's happy to have you along. Know that if you're viewing this for the first time, know that we always do a clipped down version of this. We shine it up a little bit, and we post that later in the evening, and it's basically for archiving, so we have a constant backlog of edited videos, because we always have to, we have this front section here that with the live stream we always have to is the audio working? Got to check that out, got to make sure that that CouchBot has posted. And if you're wondering what CouchBot is, CouchBot's over in the Discord channel. If you want to sign up for the Discord channel, just go over to newpragmatic.com, knock on the access door, and you'll get access to our Discord channel where all the videos are posted, and we have our daily conversation with students. And if you're looking for mentorship, you can check that out over there as well. Everything we're covering this morning is based on the mentorship that's going on in the program. And without further ado, I think we should get this underway because CouchBot has fired. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. We've got a wall. I'm not even going to call it a medley. It's a wall of work today. Abby has submitted 4 different things. Maddie's got a couple things in here. Eddie's got a barrage of things to look at. So I'm really just excited to jump in, and let's go ahead and share the screen and get this underway. All right, so right away, I've got Abby here off the start. She turned into her work first, and I'm actually meeting with her a little later today. And it's kind of interesting because Abby has turned in a number of things. She's got her competitor analysis and her user interviews, and her competitor testing all here at once. And one thing that I like to do for all of these, she's got her user interview notes here, which are great. She's also got her competitor testing notes here as well, which again is great. A lot of times, when we get into these little bitsy observations, and I'm hoping that you were utilizing an Otter AI to record as you went, so you weren't just manually hand typing all this back in. What I like to see is I like to see some distilled like summary at the top of each of these tests. Same thing for the interviews. Like, what's the feel here? Um, you know, what do you feel about the information that you've received? What's your confidence level that it was a good session? You feel like they were open, they were fluid. Um, um, the highlights of the observations, because there's a lot of stuff here. What was the thing that seemed to really resonate? That summary level here is missing from them, and that doesn't mean that these are bad notes at all. You can always go back and add the summary, but it adds color. This is a lot like reading play by play from like a sporting event, or reading the recipe on the box, but it's that I'm not quite sure how to feel about it until I have the summary that goes along with it. So, as I mean, I can look through here and like, okay, Purple Carrot, familiar with the website. This is talking about Molly here. She found it through an Instagram ad. That's always an interesting observation, because it tells you kind of, okay, so was this like word of mouth? How did they get to this thing called Purple Carrot? Because frankly, I've never heard of it. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's just that I've never heard of it. Small confusion with reactivating the account. Hates the repetitive similar meal options. Okay, that's another good observation. Was unable to complete most tasks without being an activated user. Although she was logged in, so it's like, if you're not an active user, you're basically held at bay on the site. Page seems to have the right amount of content. Page seems to have the right amount of content at once to get to the next task, not tons of commute. So it's just like it's balanced. Instances have confusing design. So it sounds like the meal card buttons were probably an issue. Like if she clicked it and it did something that she wasn't anticipating it doing. Good microcopy saying to add more when needed. So there were the little signposts along the way. We've talked about those. Good pop-up menus for the next step. So again, that's much along the same lines. I skipped something there. Annoyed you have to pick food items so far in advance, otherwise you can't get it at that week, or they'll just send a recommended meal. So that's interesting. So she's unhappy with the frequency that you can make an adjustment. It sounds like everything's like 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance. Loves pre-cut veggies. Good pop-up menus for the next step. Design simple, same spot, so the user always knows where to go to next. So it sounds like their UI is good. Options to edit meal choices and subscription plans. Doesn't care about the try these recipes. Thinks text stretches across the whole grid as one column is ugly. That is true. Don't do that. And basically what she's saying is, right now this text is stretching literally across the page, but I've seen websites where the text like goes side to side like that, and that's no good. That's a really terrible reading experience. That's one reason why books are taller than wide. Websites are wide, so you should, if you're the web width is like this and you're going across it with text, that's always going to be bad. Oh, by the way, Alberto Cairo, Truthful Art, very good book. Options to edit meal choices, subscription plans. Doesn't try these recipes. Thinks text. Yeah, okay. Easy found chat helper. So there was like some sort of chat thing here. Card overview shows allergies overview. Okay. Inside recipes page shows all ingredients for certain meals. That's always good. Disappointed no app. Makes ordering inconvenient. Okay. Website landing page. Then once logged in, just for viewing, finds it easy, simple. Okay, so apparently you tested this with a few people. One find easy, simple. Molly sees it as confusing. I need some clarification on that as somebody coming in, and this is probably where like I'm not sure that detail would bubble up to the top, but it sounds like there's a mixed position on that. Not convenient for selecting meals mobile web version, which she would usually use. So she would just send them to let them send whatever meals. Okay, so there's something. So because they don't have an app, that's keeping her from really moving forward with the organization. She's not having a great experience. Only uses my account, upcoming deliveries to switch delivery dates and login. So it sounds like she like they just send her food. She doesn't change it a lot, mainly because it's not easy to do on her phone, and that's a real issue. If your users, and I was talking with Luigi the other day. Luigi's company has a high mobile usage rate. If your users are all on mobile, if that's like primarily how they find you, you've got to have a superior mobile web experience, a superior app experience. You can't just say, "Oh, we'll have a great desktop. We won't really think about the mobile site." The mobile site's got to be fantastic, in addition to possibly having an app. I do think that there are situations where you need an app. There are situations where you don't really need an app. You just need a really good mobile web presence. You can do a lot with the mobile web. I think a lot of people reach for app too quickly. But that said, I also know that users just anticipate an app in a lot of cases. We can go through the rest of these, but it is kind of interesting. You've got this similarities between Purple Carrot and Thistle. This is almost like a comparison. It's kind of buried. It's like kind of just down here. So it is more flexible. User likes. This might be copied over from. I'm seeing a lot of misspellings, but this might be copied over from Otter. Maybe Otter had a problem there. But overall, I like the fact that you've got this piece. Although this can't be from Otter. I'm just going to change this for you. Contradicting containers likes this one more. Okay, there. With regard to this, I think this shows a bit of distillation of the ideas. I don't necessarily need to go through Thistle to completely see that. Sorry, not her strong suit. But what I do like here is I like the fact that you were sitting down with a group of users, watching them really leverage or utilize the sites themselves. You should have a better sense of what they will and won't put up with, because you've sat there and watched them. You've sat them and watched them use the sites. You kind of know, like, there were certain aspects of the other experience where she kept running into with the Purple Carrot. She kept running into roadblocks. And Thistle, I'm seeing right away that there's bad microcopy here. So okay. No person or chat with user annoyed they have to email. Help button was easy to find, but then when they got there, they had to email. That's that it's really surprising that you'd think that Thistle would be a little better than that. I would expect more from Thistle than from Purple Carrot, because I've heard of Thistle. Um, but here you get Pro Thistle. There's an app. Con Thistle has no real person messenger. So there are trade-offs here. I'm gonna fix these two. More comfortable on laptop over phone app. So here is a situation where somebody was like really preferring that computer experience over the phone. So it's good to realize that that's out there. Like, it's not just people like Molly. There are also people like Denise that want a robust desktop experience, which also kind of leads you to believe that, wow, I've got to think about, I can't just put all my eggs in mobile. I've also got to consider desktop. And in case you're wondering, that's a reason why we need more designers, because you can't just design, like, as we add screens, tablets, cars, kiosks, like, as we add screens, we need more designers. There's more design happening. So, like, visual design, how the flows work from device to device, all of these things need consideration, and that's why design is going through a boom. If we didn't have all these new screens, we wouldn't have all these requirements. So this is pretty good. For the record, I'm really happy to see the updates here, Abby. I would like to see summaries with these as you move forward. I do think that some of that is here, like you're distilling down. It's just where it's at is a little different. And it's still bitsy. I want to take a look now for a second at your analysis, and you got a SWOT here, and the SWOT is really supposed to be on what your organization can do. And it says quick, visible feedback, familiar and easy to understand wording, prominent nav to help guide user, next step, breadcrumbs. Like, this all sounds like it's on the things that you've reviewed. It's not really about what your organization can do, and it's all like interface. When we think about the benefits, that, like, what are the strengths for Fresh Market? Well, you got to go back to the stakeholder interviews. Like, the stakeholder interview told you in the documents that came with that, like, they've got a great regional footprint. They've got lots of nearby delis. They can deliver fresh food really fast because they're in the neighborhood. They're not being shipped from across the country in like freezer packed boxes and things. And like weaknesses, too much information on page causes scrolling for user. Yeah, that is very much a problem for the competition. It's not necessarily for your organization. And I just want to double down there. Product, market. Let's go through here. I just want to look at the comp analysis checkpoint and make sure that I'm not leading you. Okay, so SWOT analysis on your company. Okay, so that SWOT analysis, we need to refocus it. And so the known unknowns, known unknowns is interesting to me because it's always about, okay, so what, based on my study of the competition, what don't I know, or what questions do I have right now? What thing, and again, we go back to this competitive analysis doc here where we talk about the known unknowns, and you get into here. Known unknowns is basically this area right here. So your competitive research that you've done to this point is this dark green circle. The light green circle outside, that's the known unknowns. And that's the questions that I should ask because I know that they're there, but I don't know the answer. So I've got to ask these questions. And when I look at your competitive analysis and I look at your known unknowns, higher than average grocery bill, most users avoid because of cost. Options for different price ranges. So that's a known. Like that's stuff that you know. What I'm looking for is what are the questions that you have now that you've done the analysis. Now that you've done the research, what questions do you have so you can carry those into your user interviews? All right. Apps. Smaller companies don't have them. Convenient for users to order quickly. Right. That's a known. Okay. Not a known unknown. I need to know what questions you have now. So like this analysis, the SWOT analysis, it's not on your company. The known unknowns, I'm seeing answers, not questions. All right. Now competition, I see Thistle, Kitch Fix, and Fresh Direct. That's great. We could probably go a bit deeper on each of these because I'm almost certain that much of this actually belongs down here. But as far as a competitor analysis, right now I'm not seeing the information that I would want to see prior to jumping into user interviews, which is a problem because you've already jumped into user interviews. And my worry is you didn't carry clear questions that should have been right here into those user interviews. So that's something that we need to talk about today. I'm not going to necessarily jump into your user interview notes because, again, this is a situation where these are in bits and I need a summary. I need you to like tie a bow on the top of this so that I know like what was the overall gist of your conversation with Anna and Molly and Denise and Jess and Kara. I feel like, and Johnny, I feel like you did a lot of research here, and that's good. Okay. My question is, what are the high level things that came out of this research? Now I'm going to go through and read deeper into the bits of information here because there's probably some clear observations that we have going into this, but the big thing that I needed to happen here was I needed you to be asking the questions that you don't already have the answers for. Because again, you did all this competitor testing. You have also, in addition, robust competitor research. You've got a lot of stuff here. There should be questions that you already know the answers to. I don't necessarily need you to ask them about the higher than average grocery bill. I need you to ask them questions that you don't know about. All right. So I'm hoping maybe we accidentally got there, but until I read through all of these, I won't necessarily know. But what I do know is it wasn't here in the analysis doc. Okay. So I'm going to leave that there. And now we're going to move over to Maddie. Maddie has got not one but two CodePen element exercises to look at. We're going to come back to active blobs in a second because I'm really more interested in the work Maddie did here with regard to her hero section, and essentially Maddie's kind of going through the process of, okay, how would I structure this? How would I structure this to be utilized in a portfolio? Because right now her portfolio is over in gosh, what is it called? Squarespace, right? And this gives her a bit more control over how she goes about building things out. And one thing that I would look at here is div navbar. When we look at semantic tags, semantic HTML tags, let's take a look at the elements that we could be using, and there's a number of them. So header is one that you have, all right, and header is it's really interesting because nav is also here, and it's like, okay, well, which one do I use? You know, one thing that I like to do is, and if I can find my way back here, not active blobs. One thing I like to do is I like to use nav right there on the nav bar. And as you can see, because you've applied a class of navbar to it, it's just a class of navbar. So nothing here really needs to change because, again, it's just the class. But you could have just as easily said, all right, nav. And I also need to change this to nav. And you'll see that all of that still works. And most of it's still working, mainly because nav bar is still attached to it. If I pull the class off, everything else should change, but one thing's going to break here, and it's going to be the hover. So if I just change this to nav, this goes back to being valid, and it's going to hover. So, like, that's one thing I would do. Header could be just like, I'm going to have this on the nav, and I'm going to have this on the hero section that follows. This is a spot where you could also come back in and say, okay, well, this is a section. It's not just a div. A div doesn't have any semantic value to it, but a section does. And because you basically put everything here on the class of hero content, this isn't a big deal. Like, you could leave it as a div, you could make it a section, whatever you like. Overall, though, I think that this all works fine. There's nothing really wrong with it. I just kind of wanted to talk about that semantic tagging. When you call it div, when you call something div, it carries no value. Okay, but when you say navigation, it tells screen readers and Google, and it basically tells all these other things that might be pointing to your site where is the nav for this. Header, I gotta be honest with you, header is not one of my favorite tools, although it is semantically accurate. Okay, and the reason why header exists is because we were doing things like this: div ID nav, div class header, div ID footer, and that's why you have a footer now. That's why you have a header. That's why you have a nav. That's why you have sections. So, and people will bag on me for even beginning to look at W3 schools, but Mozilla's got great information on this too. There are some interesting things here. You can have several header elements in one HTML document. However, header cannot be placed within the footer address or another header. So, it's interesting the way they show it here. If you had an article, the header could be used for the headline and the mission label, and then that's the end of the header. So, it's kind of like when you were thinking about header, and I've seen people use it exactly the same way as you have. Whoops. Where did everything go? You were thinking about header as like the top of the page. That makes perfect sense. What they're saying is header could just as easily be this section. Like, this section could be header. I don't necessarily agree with that. I would probably make that the section, just as you have it. But again, you had it as divs. I've replaced divs with nav and section. I've seen header used the way you've used it, but I've also seen it used in other ways. The bottom line is we've flipped a lot of the stuff around, and nothing has changed here visually. The only thing that's changed is semantically what the site or what this is saying to other things that are pointing at it. Again, screen readers, search engines, things like that. So, but stylistically, I like it. It looks nice. It is fine. There's nothing there. You made a lot of spacing tweaks. I am curious. I'm going to look at your CSS. Yeah. So let's turn off the reset for a second. I want to see what happens. Yeah, you can see what happens when the reset goes away. This is particularly important because having a reset in there allows you to consistently design without worrying about, is something going to show up or go away or have weird spacing. Let's look at this blob thing. So you've got this blob over here, and one of the things that I like to, this is just a CodePen thing that you brought in. One of the things that I like to do is I like to look at, like, okay, so what are the things that this blob is, there's a class of blob, and the blob, by the way, is just this SVG shape. This isn't, there's nothing special happening here. The SVG is just kind of moving around the page. When we look at the blob though in CSS, there's an absolute position on the blob, and then the blob moves, and it moves to different positions on the page. One thing that I like to see here is I like to check out like this transform origin. And the animation. If I move this animation to 1 second, it's going to like begin just freaking out around the page. Woo! Right? And if you put it on 20 seconds, it's going to start moving so slowly across the page. This is one of those things where I think it's really important to realize how you can come in and begin to modify things that you find online. And without exploration, like I've never seen this blob class before. I don't know what this is. But I know that animation has this is shorthand where move, animation what? Well, animation move. Why is move there? Well, because the keyframe is set to move. And that's why, if I change this to Apple, I'm pretty sure it won't move anymore. Yeah, just whoop, stood still, no movement. And just broke, right? But if I change this to Apple, suddenly movement again. Why? Why is the keyword Apple important? No, the point is the keyword isn't important. Why the keyword was set to move? Well, that's what it's doing. It's moving. So it makes sense to use the keyword move, right? And we want to use things that make sense. But after move, you've got like the duration, 20 seconds. It's going to ease in and ease out. It could also be linear. It could be ease in. It could be ease out. This is ease in, out. And then it's infinite, which means it goes over and over and over again. I'm going to change this back to 5, mainly because I just want to see it move around. And let's look at transform origin. Like right now, transform origin is 50%, 50%. Let's change this to 5%. And this should, if it's XY, it's now not moving nearly as far across. It's just moving over a little bit and coming back, which means if I change this to 100, this may just go off the screen. And there it goes. And then it's going to roll on back and then go up. So if I change this to 100, it's going to go off the screen. It's going to go down. We might not even see it. It's interesting because it didn't go as far down as I would have anticipated. Let's change that back to 50-50. So there it stays on screen. It goes down just below blob. I just want to see if it will go down any further than that. So, yeah, it goes way down. Interesting. It's almost like it's almost as if it's migrating off the page initially. And what I think is really interesting is a lot of that has to do with the percentages that are set up here on the keyframe move. If I remove, it's making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stops. So it's making 6 stops to get back around, and it's coming right back around to the same spot where it ends at. Let's try to break this. So if we said 100 instead, at 100%, it should end up somewhere different than where it starts, and that's going to break the infinite loop. It's kind of got a little hiccup there. Let's change it to 1,000. So here goes over. It's going to come down. Okay, so what's happening there is it's starting at a radically different spot, and now it no longer smoothly loops because we've changed where it's at. And that's the thing about an infinite loop. It has to end exactly where it begins for it to remain a smooth infinite loop. But that doesn't mean that you can't change something in the mix right here. And what's so funny is it starts, and then this rotates 160 degrees. And then it rotates again 160 degrees. And then it's negative 20, and then it's negative 20. If you change one of these, it's gonna break on you because it's not gonna know quite how to handle that move. Did you see what happened here? Right as it gets to the lower right, it has to do this quick spin because it goes from 160, then quickly to 300, and then it has to move back to another position. So if we wanted this to actually just happen, we would need to change both of them to 300. And now it's spinning more as it gets there. So this is just really cool stuff that Maddie has brought in here. I just wanted to take a second to go through it because I wanted to spend some time exploring in code with you, because you can grab any code online from somewhere, but it's in the exploration. I don't want you to just like slap it in and just go, okay, it works. I want you to understand why it's working. I want you to go through and work with the values, understand what's happening there with it, rather than just coming in and saying, oh well, I got it to do a thing and it's there now. I don't understand why it does it, and the reason why I just don't think there's any value to you in just bringing it in. Like one of the things that's happening here is scale. Like if we change this to scale 4, it's going to get real big, right? We hadn't done anything with scale. Did I know that was going to happen? Well, I could assume because it has the word scale. I could assume that it, 0.8 going up to 1.3, that sounds like it goes up by like 50%. So in my head, because I see that property value of scale, I'm going to guess that's going to happen similarly to like when I see rotate. If I change this 20 degrees or 160 degrees, I should be able to anticipate what's going to happen. The key is going in there, messing with the code, and seeing if what you anticipate happening does in fact happen. Okay? And then you could, go in there and, you could look up rotate property CSS. Rotate property CSS. And hey, looky there, rotate. And now you can get into the syntax of what rotate can actually do. And it tells you, oh, it takes all of these different values, and here's an example. And, here's really simple, when a class of rotate it comes in here, we show this is, now rotate it 45 degrees from its original position. And then you can add this in with the transformation, and you can begin to move this thing around. The difference here, when we look back at what Maddie brought us, is that it's this keyframe that is telling it, okay, go here, then go here, then go here, then go here, and do it at this speed. Make all of these moves within 5 seconds. All right? That's why when you say make all those moves within 1 second, it just like bounces around the whole screen, right? And if you say make all those moves in 100 seconds, well, it's going to take a minute. Okay? And if you're going for that lava lamp feel, it's a very great way to do it. All right. So, Maddie, thanks for bringing that up. We're going to jump over here to Eddie now. And Eddie is going to close us out today. He's working through his sketches, and as you can see, Eddie has been busy. So when we do our interface sketches, what we're really doing is studying existing patterns. And the study of existing patterns is really important, particularly if you're like Eddie and you're new to design and you've never really sat down and stopped and looked and said, oh, wow, instead of just using a site, I'm going to study it. So this is OpenTable. And obviously when you go to OpenTable and you go to book an anything, you get select a date time drop down. Okay. And then there's, he's also paid attention to, there's these other elements on the screen. He's not just focused on the drop down. From that drop down, he's gotten a list of restaurant. Here's a restaurant photo. Here's details. This is filtering over here. And that's one thing I would make sure to note, Eddie, is I would make sure to note, like, hey, what are these other areas doing? I totally respect the work that you've done here. Otherwise, but that filter piece is pretty important. Here we've got indoor button, outdoor button. So there's a popover if you select a restaurant. Do you want this to be inside or outside? That's really important these days. Indoor, outdoor probably isn't. Well, it isn't always an option. But during a pandemic, it makes logical sense because a lot of restaurants can't have indoor seating. So if you wanted indoor seating, you might not be able to get a reservation. Restaurant time and details. So this is I've selected something here. I put in my information here, and then I can confirm down there. That's a pretty good flow, Eddie. That's what we're looking for. So aside from making sure that you realize what all the pieces are doing, I think you've done a good job there. Let's take a look at a couple more of these. This is add to cart. So this is this looks like it might be Amazon. Let's see here. Yeah, flow page, Amazon.com. So you've got your home page. You've clicked on something. This has got you to a product detail. We all know the buy now or add to cart. So you've got your cart. It's like a drop down. Proceed to checkout. You probably had to sign in at that point. Let's see here. Yeah, so you're signing in. You can place the order. There's some information here. The interesting thing here, Eddie, is I'd be very interested in knowing what these general areas are, because it says 1, 2, 3. It sounds like steps, but I think that is related to like payment information and address and things like that. So I'd be making notes of this information in a little more detail, and then you get a confirmation. So overall, it's pretty good, but I still would like you to have just a tad more detail, because this is meant to be like study notes for you for later. All right. This has got to be Franken. Yeah. This is Franken Oak. So this is frankenoak.com. You got this drop down. You get like a mega menu that comes down. There's links inside of here, and then here's the accessory. So this is navigate the men's accessories from Navbar. Again, this is filtering over here. I think that some of that information is pretty important to know, because again, you're not just studying like, oh, how do I go through this flow, but what's on this page. This is signing into Figma, and Figma.com. I can sign up. I've got a big image. So this is what the login screen is like. Google sign in or email password. You can name what you do, mailing list, sign up, and then verify, and then it walks you into the main menu. So here's your email. verify. Oh, okay. So wait, your email, verify, progress bar, email verified, and then you go in. Okay, that's the full flow. And it's important to realize that these things are not just the interface of the company itself. It's also like what happens when you try to. I was working with Luigi yesterday, and we were like, when somebody files a complaint, what happens? So we just tested the flow. Like, what are they going to do? Get mad at us for testing, the complaint flow? And we got a response back, and it was like, okay, well, here's what happens. If you have a question of like, I don't know what happens after this point, you have to commit to going through it. And a lot of times, like when I'm testing a site, I might order something really small. Like I've tested sites before, ordered something and then canceled the order just because I want to go through the flow. Now sometimes I want the socks that I ordered and I just let it come on through. But oftentimes I'll say, well, I need to cancel that order. But at least I've now seen what happens after we can complete the cycle. All right. Finally, Eddie, you've got your survey results here, and you got 62, which is really good. One of the things that I do when I'm looking at these is I rarely, if ever, look at the individual answers, or I rarely ever look at the summary. The summary is good, but I pay more attention to the spreadsheet, and you can access the spreadsheet right here. Oftentimes, it will ask you, hey, do you want to create a new spreadsheet? We just create a new spreadsheet out of this. I'm going to sort this information. It says it's transferring data. I'm going to close that one, come over here. I'm going to sort this A to Z. So that should put like none of the above, parent. And what I typically will do in a case like this is I'll begin to color code it so that I can see, who are my different buckets of people. So those are parents. These are all students. And then these are all teachers. All right. And that helps you as you're going across. So as I'm going across, if I'm wondering if I'm am I looking at a teacher or a student or whatever, now I've got people I can begin to study with. Also important is, I could also come through here and sort A to Z and just get, okay, so here are the people that said I can contact them. All right. So I may actually come through and say, okay, well, these people I'm going to lift out and say these are my go-tos. Okay? So really quickly what I've done is I've taken your entire spreadsheet and I've split it a couple of ways. One, parent, teacher, student, but then two, and I could have done this a different way, and I might take this back. What I might look at is, instead of doing parent, teacher, student like this, I might just take these and color them and say, okay, these are the greens. So then when I go back, if I resort it the other way and I say, okay, I've still got parents, students, and teachers identified. So you've got 4 teachers you can reach out to. You've got 6 or 7 students, 8 students, 3 parents. But those are the ones that are really important to you, and that's why I was splitting it this way to begin with, because I want to sort those. I want to get those at the top, and those are the people. And from here, you can go through and you can look at their answers and begin to you can also, frankly, just you could copy these. Or you could duplicate. So here's your form responses. Here's the copy of form responses. I'm just going to ditch everything down below. Delete rows 18 through 63. All right. So here's your ride or dies. Let's go A to Z, and Yeah, I'll probably just go back to what I had before, because now I can use this to resort a different way and say, okay, well, now that I know these are all people I can talk to anyway, who's got the answers that matter most to me? So, like, are your children able to remain safely home by themselves? No and no and yes. All right. So there's, and then here, what would you prefer? I would prefer hybrid, home, virtual learning. How concerned are you about the pandemic's impact? Very concerned, a bit concerned. So it's like, which one of these parents do you want to reach out to first? Same thing with students. How peaceful is the environment at home? Somewhat peaceful, very peaceful. Important, extremely important, not important. Like, I'd be, how important is face-to-face communication with you? I think talking to somebody who said extremely important, and then talking to somebody who said it's not important at all, I think those are two very interesting people to talk to. All right, so there's ways that you can begin slicing this information, but the first cut of this is just like, okay, separate out who you have, copy over the people that said that you can talk to them, put them in their own sheet, right? So that you're not having, because you've got 60 responses. That's great, okay? But I really want to now focus on the responses that said you can talk to me, because those are the responses. Those are the ones that I need to understand them the best. Keep in mind, I still have the overall summary of data over here. I haven't gotten rid of that at all, but I want to make sure I'm focusing my attention in the right spots. All right? Okay, folks. That is going to do it for a lengthy version of the feedback loop today. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Eddie, for submitting work today. I'm going to be meeting with many of you today. Some of you I will see later in the week. But if you got value out of this, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. And otherwise, I hope to see you all right back here tomorrow for the feedback loop. Take care.